This is iFanboy Pick of the Week, episode 943, brought to you by iFanboy listeners just like you. My name is Connor Kilpatrick, and I am here with my co-host, Josh Flanagan.
Hey there.
And this is iFanboy Pick of the Week, episode 943. Welcome back, everybody. We read our comics, and last week I had 25 books, and this week I had 26 books.
I think you got to start being a little more selective about what you're doing.
I like comics, but it's a lot. Spread them out.
Would you say that you enjoyed the majority of these?
Yeah.
That was convincing.
No, there's a lot of books. I'm just thinking back to the list. But yes, I think, it wasn't one of those weeks where you have like 14 books and 8 are kind of bad. No, it wasn't like that at all.
Okay. So there's no... We should do a thing where... I'm not going to remember this and we're not going to do it. Just make that clear. Where at the end of every episode, we call out if there are any of the books that we're like, I'm done with this. Even if we didn't talk about it on the show, like what do you like? I can't do another one of these.
So you basically want to announce when you drop a book.
I don't know, or not that you've made the decision to, because not
that you haven't done it or have done it, just that you've decided.
Yeah, like this was. If I remember that I didn't like this, the next time one comes out, I'm probably gonna try not to read it, but I probably will read it.
Well, I'll tell you that happened this week with X-Force. I know we have a lot to talk about, but originally I didn't have X-Force on my list, and then I just started reading it because I was, because there was so many other books.
Right.
I was just like X-Force, so I started reading it, and I got about 4 pages in. I went, wait a minute, I thought I wasn't reading this anymore because I didn't love the first issue, and then I just finished it anyway. So
do you know what I didn't read last week?
What?
Hellblazer.
I didn't read it either.
I stopped. I was like,
It was this week.
Was it this week?
Yeah, I didn't read it. I dropped
it. Whatever it was, I just went, you know what? I'm not getting any enjoyment out of this anymore.
You and I have had off the show anguished conversations about this Hellblazer book because we both really loved the last series
and tried really hard.
There's like 4 out of 6 picks of the week. And this one's just been really bad.
And it's the same people.
Same people. And I think at one point I texted you, I said, there are 7 more issues of this series. And you were just like, fuck. And I think that's when I decided I was just done with it. Because
like this should be, with the exception of DC Universe John Constantine, which is ridiculous. It's like the cartoon. It's like the real Ghostbusters compared to the movies.
Right.
I have not read a regular Hellblazer issue since 1999.
Right. I was going to say college, yeah.
Like, this is the first time where I was like, I'm out.
Since we're talking about it, and we're not talking about the book, how did you feel about him showing up at the end of Zatanna?
Are we not talking about the book? I didn't love that. I
would like them to decouple those two.
I agree.
They're both magic users, fine.
Well, Garth Ennis put them together in John's 40th birthday party, by the way.
Oh, and I'm just saying that, like, now whenever she shows up, John is never far behind.
My only thing about that was that book was existing in its own world for a bit, and I really liked that. And so they flipped around. I was like, oh, no, you don't need to tie this into anybody else or anything. You don't need it. That book was not crying out for anybody else to be added to it. It was interesting enough already.
This is the weirdest way we've ever started the show, I think.
I love it. It's good. We gotta drop it there. You know what? That's the whole. I was looking through the books and I was like, I really liked that, but I don't know if I have anything to say about it. And you brought up the one thing I would have had to say about it.
Earlier you mentioned you wanted to mention that when you stopped reading a book, I think it was only because you wanted to talk about the fact that you stopped reading Hellblazer.
I didn't. Nope. That was organic.
Okay.
I'm not that guileful. Guileless?
You're not that strategic.
No, I mean, not usually.
All right.
Certainly not here.
One of us, well, we all read all the books that come out.
But we all read all the books.
All the ones we can, and then all the ones we want to. And then one of us, how does this show work? One of us picks the book they like the best, we call it the pick of the week, talk about that book, other books of the week, the patron pick, hopefully some listener mail. It'll be fun. And here's your spoiler warning. Exercise some caution this week, Josh, as you may have gathered, had the pick. Or maybe not. I don't know.
So I only saw that there was a book called Aliens versus Avengers. I think last week there was X-Men versus Predator or something like that.
Oh, that's right. I didn't read that one, though.
Right. I didn't either. And my instinct about this book was that I'm going to read it because I've been reading all of it, but I expected nothing. I just thought this will be one of those things they do, and it'll be forgettable, and they'll just put somebody on it. And I got to the cover and I was like, oh, Hickman. And that's all I read. That's all I noticed. And I was a couple of pages in. I go, is this Esad Ribic? And so I go back and I look at it and I was like, that's a hell of a team.
Yeah, it's a great team.
And as I kept, and so also this was the last book I read. So this morning I had 2 books to go, I think. Normally, so that means it's Thursday morning and I try to be done before then, but I just didn't make it. And you wrote to me like, I'm going to be away, I'll do whatever before we're prepping for the show. And I was about to say to you, when I did not, I have 2 books left. I said, I'll have 1 book left and it's Aliens versus Avengers. But unless you tell me that's going to be the pick of the week or has a chance, then I'm not really worried about it. I'll pick something. And then I read it and I was like, and I was still like, whatever. And I was halfway through it. I was like, I think this is the best book. And I was so mad. Because I was like, oh, it'll just be a light, fun thing, and I won't worry about it very much, and I won't have to.
Well, it's oversized, right? It's like 40 pages or something.
Yeah, it was, something like that. It was definitely longer, and I knew it would be because the special books like this are always longer. These are the kind of things that you notice when you do the job that we do. I was like, oh, that's going to be 36 pages. You just get a sense for it in digital form. It's not even like I'm picking it up and know the weight. All right, so we are in a world where I don't want to give away too much, but I got to explain a little bit.
It's a strange, again, Elseworldy situation where it's a world in which Weyland-Yutani exists in the Marvel Universe.
Yes.
Clearly because there's aliens. But at one point, there's a guy from Weyland-Yutani.
I thought that was Weyland-Yutani. I thought that was
It could
him.
be. It might be.
Because he's always like an old, wizened person.
It's an Elseworld in which the alien world and the Marvel Universe have been collided together. After last week's Elseworlds Wolverine book, Marvel's doing more of these things, I guess.
But in a way, like, it's not hard to believe it because it's just an alien floating out there. Somebody comes across it, and I was thinking at one point, I was like, this doesn't not fit. Like, it's not like this wouldn't happen there. I was like, it kind of works. So the first scene that we see is it looks like 2 Shi'ar are experimenting with the xenomorph, and you see they're first like, I thought the Kree soldier would last longer, and they say, well, we tried it on the Skrulls. We tried on the Skrulls. Or they want to try it on the Skrulls, or they
did try it on the Skrull. They did,
and it worked well. They were happy about it. Yeah. And they mentioned the Chitauri, and I was like, wow, or no, the Katati, the tree people. Anyway,
damn tree people keep showing up.
I just thought, I just read the first page. I was like, oh, that's really bad. And I don't mean bad like it's been done poorly. I was like, that's not good news for anybody. And like the Wakandan ships show up, and I was like, what the hell? I was like, oh, these are the space Wakandans, which kind of doesn't make sense because I thought that stuff was way in the future. Whatever, who cares? It was around this point when they came in that I noticed all those pencil marks that Esad Ribic does, and I was like, wait a minute, this is very good. Like, it really was like that. And the aliens come out, and there's a fight, and we find out that it's too late. They've already been launched at many worlds, including the Earth. So
there's a bit of a bamboozling here because the cover, unless you look very, very closely, does not tell you that this is another future story like Avengers. What was that one? The one that we loved. Chip Zdarsky did. Avengers.
Yep.
I want to say Arena. No.
Twilight.
No.
Twilight.
It's another story with all the characters we know are all old. And so there's a bit of a bamboozlement there. I really love this. And it's an interesting counterpoint to last week's Hickman Wolverine Elseworlds book, because we talked about how in that book, you probably wouldn't even have known it was Hickman. But this felt like a Hickman book.
Yeah.
The only problem I had with it, which I very easily got over it to enjoy the book, was that, so the aliens get sent to Earth, they get out, they breed, and they spread, and they kill everybody, and they even get into Adelan and kill all the Inhumans. I feel like some of the superpowered beings would be able to easily kill these creatures, but they have it sort of posited here that they're overpowering everyone, even the superheroes.
This is one of those rule things.
I got past it, but I was like, I feel like maybe
it's it's a
Iron Man would just
Batman.
float above and he just shoot them all, and like you just, you know what I mean?
It's
Like,
a Batman doesn't lose thing.
yeah,
The aliens are the perfect killer, and like in the movies, like they basically always win, except for when Ripley's there.
unless Sigourney Weaver's there, then they're
Right,
done,
like,
they're done
and
for.
she's not saving the world. She's just getting away. She's
Saving
surviving.
herself. Yeah.
Right. But in the rest of it, you kind of have to accept like they'll beat anything. So, and I don't know if these characters were. So this got me is that the Wakandan space stuff. I thought, well, that's supposed to be way in the future. But then the alien probe lands on the surface, and there's two people, in the background who are standing there, and they're in normal today street clothes. Well, normal comic book street clothes. The one guy actually has a thug vest. Classic. So I thought, okay, that's the present. But then there's a time jump, basically, where the aliens just, wreak havoc over the whole world until there's only one American stronghold left. That's, Wayland Yutaniville, and it's almost like they were prepared for this. And I was like, they are. Then again, they don't spend a lot of time with Yutani after that. And then we get like old man versions of these characters. And there's a lot of, your main characters are Hulk, Miles Morales, Banner Hulk, and Captain Marvel, and Valeria. Is it Valeria? Valeria
yeah.
Richards. And just for the context, she is 45, and she has an amazing thing here where she's like, "You said you read this." Like, I'm a 45-year-old twice divorced woman, and I was like, "I feel you, Valeria." I mean, not the divorce, but like just that age and that like I don't fucking shut up. And human hubris causes a problem. Although in this, that's actually like a chance, like she trips. Like that's kind of why everything happens. Is she makes like the smartest girl in the world makes one tiny mistake.
Yeah, it wasn't hubris. She doesn't have power. She fell and she got overtaken by them.
She still went in. She thought she could do it, and it didn't work out.
Yes, she thought she had enough time to figure out a cure before it hatched in her. I mean, you're much more of an alien expert than I am. I've seen almost all the films, but many times. I like the alien movies, but have they ever talked about how the aliens breed without a mate? Like they said they drop the queen down, the queen lays 100 eggs.
I feel like that's a thing that happens like in the insect world.
They just
and they don't get fertilized necessarily by a male, but they have to be put in
of any kind.
They have to be put in a host. Like that's they grow that way. Right. I'm almost this is, man, what a week to not have Ryan. Because he would have this answer, but I'm almost certain that that's not necessary. There's not.
That was a minor thing because they did go into how
it's like ants because there is only the queen and the rest of them are male, as I understand it.
I assume that there's some banging going on in the ants and the queen. I just didn't. It didn't make any sense. They didn't.
I don't think there is.
No, the queen just has eggs.
I think so. This is so bad.
We should be killing all the ants. No, we should be killing all the ants.
We need the ants.
I don't trust them.
Why are we killing the ants?
Because they can breed without any kind of insemination. It's fucked up.
I like that this is like the conservative hill you've decided to die on. It's not right.
No, I'm just saying it's what chance do we have? I like the fact that when Miles gets the face hugger, he is saved by the symbiote. Although we didn't know he had the symbiote on him, but whatever. Well,
that's funny because the thing that you said that you'd have to think that there was some sort of there's something that can beat them, and in this it's going to be the symbiote. However, that's like the aliens like take on some of the traits. They've set that up. They've taken on the traits of the host creatures, so that's all bad.
So this is a 4-issue mini. This is sort of a double size issue. So we're probably good about 8 issues of content. I hate that fucking word. 8 pages, 8 issue pages. I liked it. I thought it was very meaty. So the story was fun. I thought the Valeria situation was very sad when she locks herself in the room knowing she's going to die from the alien, and Bruce has sort of become her surrogate dad since Reed died, is traumatized. But I thought that was all very well done, very emotional for a Hickman book. I thought he did a really good job of laying out the horror of it, them taking over all these mystical lands that we're so used to, even though again I feel like Thor would take all these guys out, but whatever. I thought it was good. I thought it was really good. I thought, when I saw the title originally on the list, I thought, well, I'll read it, but how long does this story last? But I think he did a good job of making it make sense that this would be not just
It
over
was-
in a minute.
It was very robust. It was very full. I thought it was a very nice blending of the facts of these two properties or universe, whatever it is, that they were like they were complete. This was like full on actual xenomorphs in a real version of the Marvel universe, and there was a lot of things that have like right away. That second page, but is like we're trying these out in different alien species, and I was like, that's really bad. And then you find out like there's a little you find out that that's not the Shi'ar in the beginning. They're Shi'ar robots, and I was like,
well they're androids. They bleed white.
Yeah. So but that's always the thing, is it's the robots who always fuck over the people. Right. I just want to point out, by the way, the parthenogenesis is a form of another word in which an unfertilized egg develops into a new individual. It has been documented in over 2,000 species, including water fleas, rotifers, aphids, stick insects, and some ants, bees, and parasitic wasps.
So we got to take them all down.
Well, we definitely need the bees.
This is our new moonshot. There's a lot of bees. There's a lot of bee species. We can lose one. This is our new moonshot. Forget curing cancer. It's taking out all those who can just spontaneously lay eggs.
There's something about that scares you in a way that is not okay.
Well, I think it's the fact that I think it's the fruit fly. It just appears as if by magic. Mm-hmm. It's weird that something alive appears out of the food.
Also, it's vaguely annoying.
Oh no, not vaguely. I had a colony in one of the pipes.
Yeah, that's no good.
You can't do anything about that shit.
I'm saying get rid of the mosquitoes. It was great, and
I liked the issue. It was good.
At the end of the day, I read other books I liked, but I'll give this a lot as the surprise factor. My expectation.
You also fucking love the aliens, and that's fine. I do love it.
I do, but I don't normally like
kooky xenomorphs.
I don't really like to mix my peanut butter, but I thought that the craft level was really high. I mean, as soon as I saw it was Esad Ribic, I was like, oh, this is going to be a problem because it's great.
I think I had seen that, but then I had forgotten it. And then once I saw it again, I was like, oh, and
it's I'm not just giving the name credit. It's fantastic Esad Ribic.
It looks really, really good.
It's
everything
great.
You want from Esad Ribic. It's big, dramatic. He has that mythical weight to his art that worked so well on Thor.
I'm actually looking at page, where are we on? 38, and at the bottom is sort of a close-up of Hulk's face, and everything is that mythic face, but that is a super human, like he put these really human eyes in the Hulk face. I like the way he drew the Hulk in this.
Yeah, really good.
Because the Hulk's older, and I think that's sort of reflected in the way that he Banner's very old, but it's sort of reflected in the way that the Hulk looks, and he's got a little more of a Frankenstein look, but those eyes there, it's like if you look at a gorilla and you see their eyes and it's creepy because they look like human eyes looking at you. It's exactly that. Beautifully rendered.
So this is our 4th 20th Century Studios pick of the week this year.
Hey,
we had Beware Planet of the Apes, we had Alien Black, White, and Blood, we had Aliens What If, and now we have Aliens versus Avengers.
Well, the Beware of the Planet of the Apes, it didn't really pan out. It was fine. What If was just, it overshot. It was fun. It was so much fun.
Own it.
What was the other one?
It was Alien Black, White, and Blood.
Oh, that was fantastic.
That was excellent.
I mean, all of these so far have just been because they've really put great talent on this stuff. It's like when they had Conan, they just put amazing talent on the book. It's like you can't help but make it like if the people doing it love it and they're great talents, it's going to be good. They've been good with that.
Very good. Sort of an end of an era of Fantastic Four 717 issue 24. This is the final issue with Alex Ross on covers.
I thought you could say Ryan North was gone. I was like, how did I miss that?
No, I think he's been an integral part of it. Now, look, you take the cover away, sure, fine, but his Kirby-esque depictions of the Fantastic Four really sort of got me in the mood for the book. And
I have no idea what the cover looked like this week. Let's go.
It was a cover of all the characters.
Oh, right, yeah, I did see that. Okay.
But anyway, it just they've had this team for 24 issues, or at least Alex Ross, Ryan North, and some other. It's mostly been Ryan Carlos Gomez on art.
his thing looks amazing on this cover. It's very Kirby.
Oh, and even he gives Reed that square Kirby jaw.
Yeah, and you see Crystal
I've
back
always
there.
loved his Human Torch from going back to the Marvels.
Yeah.
And
was he on it before? Was he on Dan Slott's run?
I don't remember.
I feel like he's been on it for a long time, but anyway.
Anywho, this was really good.
So I have two thoughts about this one. The first is that it turns out that I have
relativity
a little. That's great. I have a little bit of a problem with stories that are too close to the current social message that I already know. I understand and live with and am very aware of the fact that there are very, very rich people who just want to keep being rich and are therefore destroying our world in a way that we can do nothing about, and it feels terrible. So when the metaphor in the book is telling me a different version of that,
right,
I don't really need it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's totally, the tradition. It's in there. There's certain things like when you're commenting on the world, which I'm very like, I don't need the lesson. I don't need to be like, oh my God, this is like my world. I had it right away, which kind of bothered me. It was well done, whatever. However, I thought that the thing that, like, if this was pick of the week, and there was a moment where I thought, but it would have been based on one single panel that happened, and I thought it was brilliant, was Reed's fucked. He is shot into the future and into space on a photon. So relativity means that he's billions of years. There's nothing going to stop him. There's a beautiful science bit that happens there. And you think, and you're really thinking like, I have no idea how he's going to get out of this. And then a big golden hand reaches out from nowhere. And he's like, this isn't where it's supposed to be. You need to be back there. And and Reed stutters for a second. He goes, and I was like, and then the voice says, yes, for your family. And then as he's being shot back, he just weakly says, Franklin. And I was like, fuck yeah. Right. Because that's not just Deus Ex Machina. That was set up. That existed.
In lots of Marvel comics, we know from many books that like the end of this universe is going to be like Franklin, Thor, and like Galactus. And so, so Reed gets in the photon time traveling ship, and I love the scene where he knows basically where he is in time by watching the stars blink out until there's none left. And I was like, oh shit! I love the relativity part of this, where in order to save the day, he has to sacrifice himself by going billions of years in the future. And then you're right. Once the fan came out, I was like, oh, it's one of those Marvel cosmic hands. And then with the Franklin part, gotcha in the guts.
Really, and like so that get me out to all this other thinking. I was like, does he doesn't know that this is what's going to happen to? Right, he hadn't before. Like we all know it, but he didn't. And sometimes to have Reed have a revelation, especially when it's about his own son, I think that's really interesting because now he has information that he, I think, didn't have before, and that matters.
And it's also, as you must know as a father, like to know your son is still alive billions of years in the future,
and that he saved him.
Right.
And then, but that also brings all this stuff, other stuff that I started thinking about. I was like, is there supposed to be some sort of like divine plan or some sort of fate in the Marvel universe? Because look, what are the chances that the world's smartest man also ends up accidentally with superpowers, and then him and his wife give birth to like the being who will be the most powerful thing of all time? Why did that happen?
Right.
And it's great. I don't need an answer. It just made me think about it.
Yeah, I liked it. I did roll my eyes a little bit on the politics of the other world. Like you said, it was all about income inequality. It's like, okay, I get it. But the sciencey bits were really fun.
Oh, absolutely.
And I feel like Ryan North has really sort of zeroed in on Johnny and Ben and Sue, and certainly Reed has had his moments in this book, but I feel like, and I could be wrong, that it's rare that Reed is like the primary hero in these stories. So that was fun.
He was in the vampire stuff. He was the big. Well, it's funny because there's also the thing where, like, you find out the big the big reveal is that all of the aliens have sent out however they do it in their science, they send out a bunch of nuclear bombs basically that are all going to hit the Earth.
Right.
And you're like, oh no, that's the big scary thing we learned. And then a couple of pages later, you see Reed just go, nah, we can handle that. That's no big deal. And it does. It happens often. Like that thing that was scary. And the story point that they actually make out of it isn't saving them from that thing. It's Johnny going, these people had no reason to do that. But in their final moment, they just lashed out in anger and threw all of these things that were going to cause death just because they were mad.
Yeah.
And I was like, and he's like, I'm really having a hard time letting go of it. And I was like, now that's much more affecting to me than the thing about, you know, the super rich woman who destroyed the world for her own benefit, and she should be able to do what she wants. The Republican tentacle alien. And I just thought, and maybe that's part of the same thing. Like this is the effect of all that and what happens, but I thought it was more salient, more interesting, more fantastic.
It was less of the nose.
Yes. Yeah. I thought that was good.
The other thing is that Marvel has been doing these post-credit sequences.
Mm-hmm.
So
I almost missed that, but I got it.
In the physical books, as far as I know, you have to scan a QR code to get them. Digitally, it's a mess. Like you're reading on Kindle, right?
I go back and forth.
I'm on the Marvel Universe app, and they're just in there for the review copies we get. But so it's hard to miss if you're reading digitally, like the 15 people in the press.
So that's the part. So that's the part that he said that.
Yeah, that's the part where he's still can't get over the bombs.
I like that part. I did not really like the.
And then they found a infant alien who looks like an octopus, and everyone thinks octopuses are actually aliens. Not everyone, but many learned people think that.
Also, they're like, oh, there will be love now. It's like, he's a disgusting alien. He's going to be alone and ostracized by everybody.
Right. Not octopus. Throw him in the ocean. I was going to throw him in the ocean.
He would know, because he'll rule the octopi.
Or get eaten,
and then they'll take over. That might happen too.
If Jason Aaron wrote the book, he'd get eaten by a shark. DC put out 0 Hour 30th anniversary special this week, which first of all hurt my feelings.
Yeah, I understand that.
But so anyone who wasn't reading comics 30 years ago, like Josh, I assume.
I just missed this, I think.
So 30 years ago we were 16.
Yeah.
So it would have been like senior year of high school, right? That's when I was 16.
You're young, so 16, 17.
Let's say junior, senior year of high school. So you weren't back in it yet.
No.
So 0 Hour was an event. It was a big crisis event, not without crisis in the title. And the whole point of the event was sort of to wrap up the Hal Jordan situation, which doesn't really fully get wrapped up until Jeff Johns later, Green Lantern Rebirth. But, the big event there was that, again, it was another continuity cleanup that didn't help, that didn't do anything. Like they tried to fix Hawkman in that book. It didn't take. I think they sent the Justice Society out of the time stream in that book, and then they eventually came back. But the big ending event was that Oliver Queen shoots Hal in the chest with an arrow and kills him in order to stop him from, destroying the planet. This is my literal 30-year-old memory because I don't think I've read it again since then.
Question on that.
Mm-hmm.
And you may not remember this, but so was the period between Hal becoming Parallax and
I believe he became the Spectre at the end. Keep going.
Yeah, but was it like a long time between when he sort of fell and they had to fix it before Kyle Rayner comes along? Like, were there years?
Well, Kyle Rayner was in this. Was he in the story? He must have been. When did Kyle Rayner come about?
I remember reading Kyle Rayner as being relatively new when I started reading comics. I grabbed those trades. I sort of caught up on it. I didn't think it was that far back. It doesn't matter. It's not
who knows the history of the villain known as Kyle Rayner. So Kyle Rayner, his first appearance was 94. So he was definitely around.
Right. Okay. So he'd
been around a couple of years.
Okay.
Which makes sense because, let's not go down the Kyle Rayner rabbit hole. But I wanted to
noted. I like Kyle Rayner.
You love Kyle Rayner. It's great. A lot of people love Kyle Rayner. So this wacky story, first of all, okay, written by Dan Jurgens and Ron Mars. Ron Mars was the guy who wrote the Kyle Rayner book and then for years received death threats, which none of us condone, obviously.
You would have totally been in Heat.
Me?
You're basically your platform is the same as theirs.
But I didn't join Heat. Heat was around. I could have joined.
Right. I know, but like you were like, I don't think they should do it, but I understand.
So listen to the artist, son. This is like a 90s smorgasbord. Early 90s. Daryl Banks, Kelly Jones, Tom Grummett, Norm Rapmund, Jerry Ordway, Paul Pelletier, Howard Porter, Dan Jurgens, and Brett Breeding. That's the art team on this book. This was like
And Daryl Banks was the guy on that book for a long time.
Well, this is why I wanted to make sure we talked about it, because the story here is a Kyle Rayner story that's clearly, co-written by Jurgens and Mars, but Daryl Banks draws a good portion of. So it's kind of like a return to Kyle, that period of time. And so the story here is that I guess it takes place, the main bit takes place, this story takes place before the events of Green Lantern number 8. So this takes place in the 90s. There's a problem with that later. We'll get to it. But a portal opens up. A really fucked up looking Wally West says, "Please help me." And he pulls Kyle Rayner into this alternate dimension where basically the early 90s plays out in a different way. So like Bruce never healed from getting his back broken. Superman never came back from the dead from fighting Doomsday. And so like all these events in the 90s play out slightly differently. And so it's really interesting kind of returning to that era with all these writers and artists from that era telling these alternate versions of the story where all the kids from that time period, Connor Hawke is Green Arrow and Wally is Flash, and well, in this story, Kyle Rayner is Green Lantern, even though in the dimension there isn't a Green Lantern. But it's almost like going back to that time when, in that early mid 90s where they brought all the legacy characters to the forefront. Wally had been there for a while, yes. But it was actually super fun, even though it was completely bonkers. And there is one, Bruce Wayne's like this crazy, awesome wheelchair that looks like it's a tank. Mm-hmm. And then, at one point, they're like, "Who the hell are the Green Lanterns?" or something, whatever. And so Kyle makes an image of them with his ring, and it's like Hal and John Stewart and Guy Gardner. But again, this takes place in the 90s. It's also got Simon Baz and Jessica Cruz and that new Green Lantern whose name I don't remember from that book we hated. And so these characters didn't exist back then, but whatever. That was my only problem with it.
The lady with the glasses?
The glasses and the these characters did not exist in 1994, but whatever, it's fine. But I thought it was fun. There was a whole bit here where, Kyle runs into the alternate version of Donna Troy, who's now taken over their Wonder Woman mantle, and they had a relationship in that book. And so he's like, "Oh shit, it's the woman I used to love," and that was fun. And Jerry Ordway drew a lot of this book. There's some really great stuff in here. It's crazy. I don't know why they did this. I don't know who it's for, but
I bet a lot of those readers are still around.
But it was just like this weird, like, let's just play in between the panels. Starman is a major character in here, Josh.
Jack.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's like they just went, like, we're just going right back to 1996, and we're just gonna pretend like nothing ever changed and just tell a story. Wave Rider's a main character.
That's fun.
It was fun.
That's cool.
I enjoyed it, even though 0 Hour didn't really. I enjoyed it at the time, but didn't really stick. But
I kind of was like, I'm gonna skip this because I didn't read that. I was around for it, and I just wanted to read less books.
There's a sweet moment where they realize they have to. So there's one or two universes can die, either the one that he got sucked into or the DC universe. We find out the one he got sucked into is this little pocket world that Hal created, where everything could go on as it should. So it's really small. There's hardly any people in it, and so they said, "Okay, we'll die because the other one's got billions of people, so we'll take the hit." And Donna gives Kyle her necklace, and he wears it out, and he's wearing it the rest of the issue. I thought it was very sweet. It was just weird and fun. It was strange.
Cool. I bet it was fun to look at too.
I didn't get to talk about Batman: The Dark Age book 4. I was out for that show, but book 5 came out this week, and if I recall correctly, Space Age, with the Superman book by this team, like started out hot out of the gate, and I think this book has been a slower burn to get to hot. But I think by now, this is a very good book. Whereas in the beginning, I wasn't sure, but I think now it's very good.
I agree with you. I think it's a very good book.
I think there's a lot of interesting things being explored here. I thought this issue in particular where I think it's the second to last issue where things are coming to a head. The Ra's al Ghul situation was very interesting. Batman's relationship with Robin, who once he got rid of that dumb helmet was okay. And then the whole
Robin.
bit where what's that?
It was a good Robin. And what's the name? Who was the Zimbian Liberation Army that Barbara
Hearst.
Gordon is here? Patty Hearst. There you go. Yeah. So
Barbara
she has her
Gordon's
Patty Hearst moment.
But they, that's where they fall in love. And so in the future, Bruce is like, I was there when your parents met. And I think there's a lot of interesting things going. The structure is really good. Martha Wayne's almost the Princess Diana type in the story. And I really like the scene where they come back from an adventure and they're just sitting in the living room and they're just covered in dirt and they're tired. Like that there's just some really interesting things happening. And then Batman just goes to the Justice League for help because Gotham's falling apart, and they're just like, buddy, like everything's falling apart. Brainiac just told us, but the Anti-Monitor's coming. Like I thought this was good. Including which never fails to make me laugh is the boardroom stuff.
Well, there was another one there where like he's like, that's all, the world's gonna end, we're all gonna burn, and they're like, he's like, you always do this? Oh yeah, it's fine, but we're making tons of money. And that is a more subtle way of doing what Ryan North did in the other book. Now, by the way, Mark Russell, he's allowed to do this because that's what he does. This is his thing. He's allowed to talk about the world and be as on the nose as he wants. That's his job, and I'm fine with it. Because I know that going in anyway, which is unfair. But there we go.
I think this is terrific. I think the first issue we weren't sure about. The second issue, but then it's been building and building, and now I'm very excited for the finale of this.
I think it's really smart.
The little bit was fucking rough.
This is a hostile takeover, and he throws a knife and stabs the guy in the chest. It's like, it doesn't work like that. That's great. It's there's something. There's like it's Mark Russell, really focusing and being tamped down. Like the silliness is just about there, but not very forward. And oddly enough, this strange art seems to leaven it, which is strange, but that is what's happening. Because it's not.
They're
comedic.
A good team. They're meant for each other.
They really are.
Yeah.
Yeah, they both bring out the best in the other one.
Did you read Archie the Decision #1?
Now, I had not known about it, but I knew that it was coming. I didn't know that this is what it was, and I did. I read it just before we recorded.
Okay, because I put it into the Slack earlier this week.
You may well have.
Tom King and Dan Parent. Dan Parent, of course, being the modern day master of the classic Archie style, doing a one-shot special that purports to be about Archie finally making the decision between Betty and Veronica, which we have seen in the Fantasy Future Adventures books that came out several years ago. But it really is not that. And what it really is a love letter from Tom King, who is a giant Archie nerd.
Just to the Archie.
Well, I didn't know it either, but then you read the back where he talks about all the original art he owns.
Mm-hmm. Kind of rich.
And it's just a love letter to the universe. And basically, like, every major character pops up. Characters I don't even know. And I've read as many Archie books as superhero books when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
But it comes down to a silly situation where Archie's going to flip a coin for Betty and Veronica, and the coin bounces out the window and ends up bouncing through the whole town and causes consternation, and people start chasing it. And it's just it's an excuse to basically literally run through town and make Archie jokes. And
it was Tom's least intricate plot in his entire career.
There's even a That Wilkin Boy joke that made me laugh. Like, it's just, if you're an Archie fan, there's a lot of deep dives here. And of course, at the end, once the coin stops rolling and everyone's got him, everyone's in the park with him, or who is it going to be, Betty Veronica? And he can't do it. Can't make the choice. I just thought this was delightful, especially as an Archie fan.
So I have to ask.
This is probably lost on most of you.
No, I mean, like, I enjoyed it, but more as a like, what is this? Like, I understand it all, but I've never really read it. But I know enough that, like, it's not. I could read an Archie comic book and not be lost. You know,
sure.
I'm fine with that.
It's in the zeitgeist.
Who are you choosing?
Me?
You can't. This is the brilliance of it. I was like, you really can't choose.
Well, I mean, it's Betty. It's always been Betty. It's always Betty.
Okay.
But, Veronica makes a strong case.
She's not going to be happy. That's what I got. I was like, you know what? She's just too much. She wants the world too much. I did think at the end of it, I was like, why do they both want this turd?
He's a good dude. He's got abs. He plays in the band. He's on the football team. In the future books, like where they go off and they explore life with Archie, where in one series he's with Betty and one he's with Veronica. With Betty, they move back to town, Riverdale, and they're both teachers. And like he's the music teacher and she's something else. And then with Veronica, he moves to the city and he works for her dad's company. And so it's the different life choices he could make. Mm-hmm. But it's I mean, everyone in their heart knows it's always been Betty, but Veronica is no slouch.
I mean, I think she's sexy. She's got that other thing, but it's hard to hold on to. You can argue a lot more.
I'm glad it was one issue. At first, I didn't know. I was like, is this going to be like a miniseries? But it was just one silly issue, and I liked it. And Dan Parent is a master at the style.
Yeah. Isn't he like the guy? Like after Dan DiCarlo? Like he's the guy?
Yeah, he's the guy.
Is it Dan or Mike DiCarlo? Mike DiCarlo hosted the show.
History show.
No, Mike DiCarlo, Studs.
Oh, that's not the
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Dan DiCarlo was the artist. He was the guy back in the 60s and who sort of, 50s and 60s sort of made style.
Yeah, Mike DiCarlo is the artist and then Dan DiCarlo is the bad TV show host.
Well, it says Dan DiCarlo in here.
Oh, so there is a Mike DiCarlo, Mike DiCarlo, born in 1957. Is he the...
He's probably the host.
Nope. Let's see. Studs host. Mark DiCarlo. Same name.
Mark DiCarlo.
He was the host of the... There are two. There is a Mark DiCarlo, who I assume is related to Dan DiCarlo.
You were saying Mike before.
I was.
Yeah.
Okay, so Mike DiCarlo.
There is a Mike DiCarlo comic. What is happening?
Dan DiCarlo is the legend.
Yeah.
Mark DiCarlo is the legend's son, or Mike DiCarlo is, and then Mark DiCarlo hosted Studs.
Mike DiCarlo was Dick Giordano's assistant.
Okay. Also, you may remember Mark DiCarlo.
And he inked him. He inked the Jews contract.
In the episode of Seinfeld where he played Alec Berg.
Okay. All right. Well, if you enjoy anything that's happening right now, and I don't know that you are, but God bless you for trying, you might want to consider supporting us at patreon.com/iFanboy. That's how we get our main support for the show. The super fan, the mega user goes there and helps us out. And in return for having the show exist, that's the main thing that's in return. But also, they get the Discord community, they get the Facebook community. There's a Patreon hangout every month. There's tier exclusive merchandise that only they can buy. We don't even have it. I would love one of those t-shirts. I don't have one. So all the details are found at patreon.com/iFanboy. Thank you for being a patron. We do appreciate it. It helps us pay the bills. What also helps us pay the bills, iFanboy.threadless.com is our merch store. We have 13 designs that are on t-shirts and more. We have iFanboy.com/support is our PayPal tip jar. iFanboy.com/Amazon, where you can find a general shopping link as we inch ever closer to the holidays. I went to a CVS the other day and there was Halloween stuff out.
Oh yeah, that's already
August.
Started. That's normal now.
That's fucked up.
Go ahead, try to find a pair of shorts in a store right now.
Well, I'm in California. I can find shorts.
Right, that's fair. Out here, they're gone in June. You're out.
I know. I had the same problem living in New York. I remember one year in December, I lost my hat, my winter hat, and I went to go buy one, but no, the stores all had their spring stuff out. I was like, it's December. We have 2 more months of terrible winter.
Well, my son was born in New York City in February, and right. We didn't have enough warm pajamas. I couldn't find any anywhere. They were all the light ones. And it was the huge blizzard when we got home. So there was 3 feet of snow outside. Queens was closed, and no one had warm baby clothes. And I was like, "You gotta be fucking kidding me!"
It's bad.
New York City.
And then bookshop.org is our partners with local bookstores. If you want to support them, you go to the bookshop.org link, and a local bookstore will fulfill your order and not a giant corporation. And we thank you for that. We put those links where appropriate on the website. Let's move on to Grommets, number 4. And before we get into this issue, Josh, I think it's important that we recognize that last time Grommets was pick of the week.
I knew this was coming.
We talked about it. I just wanted to mention we spent a lot of time talking about Rick Remender as the writer and all the ways it was different than what he normally writes and how it felt like a different book. And like assholes, which is fair to say, we never mentioned Brian Posehn, the co-writer, who, you know, he's the co-writer. He gets as much credit as Rick. We just so used to talking about Rick that we forgot.
And we look for him in there. He's also the main character.
You think Brian? Rick is the main character. Yeah.
Rick is the main character.
And Brian's probably a good reason why this book feels like a different kind of Rick book.
Yes.
And so we should have mentioned that last time we talked about it, and it's our fault. And we apologize to Brian, who we have interviewed who Josh did interview at Comic-Con.
Yeah. And what he said to me afterwards was, "Wow, that was actually really good." And I was like, "Thank you."
So I was excited just looking at the cover because it's got all the characters we've seen, the Brian and Rick plus the three hot blondes and the out of nowhere hot brunette and the punk kid all hanging out together. And I thought,
Liberty
it's the party.
Spike Mike.
It's the party episode or issue. And that's what it is there's a party going on.
That is all prefaced though by the fact that finally things are working out and he's very happy. And then he finds out instantly that his dad says, "Yeah, we're moving to Phoenix." And all of the stuff comes out. And it really was this whole time. That's what I liked about it is like this time we're like, oh, we're just going to hang out with these kids for a while. And there's going to be, drama that happens between them or whatever. And then like the bottom drops out of it. And I felt terrible for this kid. He's
got friends. He's got a best friend. He's got these girls. He's got this other girl that seems to like him for whatever reason. Like he's finally living the life he thought he would be living in high school. And his dad's like, "We're moving to Phoenix," which is what happened to Rick Remender in real life. Mm-hmm. How old do you think his dad is here? Do you even want to speculate on that?
I don't know.
I was looking at him. I was like, he looks older than me, but I bet he's not.
No. Oh, no, definitely not.
And so they have
he was an old 35, maybe.
They throw a party because Brian's family's out of town. And of course, as these go, it escalates where it was just supposed to be the girls and what's the punk kid's name again?
Liberty Spike Mike.
Liberty Spike Mike. And then, of course, the blonde girls invite the football team.
The Gens.
And then that's the cliffhanger.
But to me, though, the thing, like I said, the bomb dropping on that thing, and then the rest of the issue, Rick was lashing out because of it. And I thought that was a good choice rather than him getting a lesson. Like, you would act petulant and horrible and you're going to blow, your chance with this girl who's way too kind and nice to you for the way that you're acting.
I did think it was a little stretch to think he would lash out at her after she puts her hand on his thigh.
Right. Or that she would keep doing that.
I just think that he would be so paralyzed by that action. He wouldn't necessarily yell at her about Duran Duran, but I understand. I think
kids are weird.
What you're saying is true, that the emotional underpinnings of this made the issue very strong. Like this comic is terrific. I'm telling you right now, it's going to end up on our final end of the year best comics list. Mm-hmm. I'm upset. There's only 3 more issues. Fine, whatever. Rick and Brian.
Speaking of Rick Remender, and I'm pretty sure he's the only writer on this, with guest artist Andre Lima Araujo, who I believe was a listener at one point because he's pushed some stuff our way that he made. A great artist. It's really cool to see him move up in the comic book world. Sacrifices number 11. I really like this series, and earlier you remember me talking about a metaphor for society that was too on the nose and annoyed me. That's what this book is. But it's done in a very a fantasy way. I really like the twists that have taken place with the main characters. The first one being the pigeon guy who was being sacrificed, and then the daughter. Everybody's reversing their places, and I find it compelling. I find it really well done. I did not know that this was a guest artist for a while because it just felt
he's doing very much. I mean, Andre was the artist on that other book we liked that Rick did,
Killer one with
Righteous Thirst for Vengeance.
Yeah.
But similar
this looks
style.
More like,
so in the same way, I was like, wait, has he been the artist the whole time?
Yeah, this looks like almost like there's a Frank Whiteley thing going on here.
Well, he's got that. Yeah.
It's a great. I really enjoy this series. When an issue comes out, and I know they come out regularly, but I feel like they're coming out like clockwork, and so I'm not losing the thread of it. It's been good.
No, I like this book more than I've been liking it more as it's gone on.
Yeah.
To the point now I like it. But if I had to choose, I would rather Grommets be the long epic. Fine, that's fine.
Wow,
that's fine.
You try getting a professional comedian to co-write a book with you over a long period of time.
This is very good. It is very good. And then the ending is
I'm glad to hear that.
The ending is heartbreaking, and it's a metaphor for society now, but it's also a metaphor for society ever. I mean,
yes.
Society has always been built this way, which is why, it's always great people try to change society, but it never changes. There's always people in power who exploit those who don't have power, and it's always been that way and always will.
Because they would really like to keep that power.
Yeah. But, this is very much it, not on the nose, but like, you must sacrifice your children for the gods. Well, what have the gods given us? Well, all of this.
Yeah.
And all of this is terrible. So,
but the other thing about this
power structure, but they also are gods, which makes it complicated.
Right. If the gods believe it too, they're like, we do everything for you. And like, they have no idea because they're who they are. Convert #1 came out from Image. And I read this because it's a story by John Arcudi. John Arcudi, I need you to write this down somewhere, because sometimes somebody's going to say, who's an overlooked comic book creator that people never mention among the greats? And John Arcudi is one of those people. Just legendarily amazing, so consistent run over on BPRD for years, and then other things here and there. This is a sci-fi story. Some space explorers are out on an alien world and they're looking for something or other, whatever. And there's some sort of issue with the ship, so they're delayed. And Houston or Control or wherever they are goes, hang on, we're going to try to fix something remotely. Blows up the ship, and 2 of the people who are in it, and the guy who was like across the field, is now stranded on this alien world. Then some shit happens at the end. I'm not sure, but it's a great sci-fi startup and like a basis for a story. And the thing is, there's a lot of these out there. But he's so good at it that it gets started smoother and better. This is a lot like when we talk about Hunger in the Dusk. There's a lot of fantasy stories, but G. Willow Wilson's a veteran and she does it better. And in the same sense, Arcudi does it better. Like, there's none of that, beginner's sort of creakiness. It's just like, all right, I know how to tell a comic book story. Let's go.
We're not talking about it this week, but another excellent issue of the G. Willow Wilson book, whose name is escaping me at this moment.
You've managed to shoehorn 2 books that we haven't talked about on a very long list.
I'm just saying, it was a very good issue. I could have
always are.
As well.
Absolutely.
God damn it! Universal Monsters Frankenstein, written and drawn by Michael Walsh, was fucking great.
I saw Michael Walsh and I was like, come on. This
My only complaint, and this is a minor complaint, and it's no knock on Toni Marie Griffin's colors, but I kind of wish it was black and white, because Michael Walsh's art is so cinematic, and this is supposed to be recalling back to the Universal Monster movies that were in black and white. And I say just because everything that's happened to me in the last 5 years feels like it just happened. But either last year or the year before, I saw a double feature of Frankenstein, The Bride of Frankenstein, downtown LA on the big screen, and they're both short movies. They're like 45 minutes, and it was super fun. It looked gorgeous. And he does a really great job. So what he does here is he inserts a new character, basically the son of one of the dead bodies that is, scavenged for the monster, because Frankenstein is the name of the doctor. Of the monster.
Yeah, it's pronounced Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
What knockers?
So the son, he sees his father's body get exhumed, so he follows, who's not Igor but Fritz, to Dr. Frankenstein's castle, and so he inserts him into the classic film, but like hiding in the shadows or under a desk or in the background, kind of like a Tag and Bink situation. Mm-hmm. And so we get to witness the scenes from the film all over again, like it's the whole it's a live scene and all that stuff, and it just looks so good.
It did look great.
The way he draws Frankenstein, the monster is terrific, and the sketches in the back, like, he's just so good.
Michael Walsh is an amazing artist, and for a little
while, the sketches
in
the back are in black and white. That's why I thought about it. I was like, why isn't this black and white?
I mean, for a little while, he was the guy who kind of looked like Chris Samnee. And since then, like, he's like, I'm gonna just do my own horror books, and it's just a great creator. I believe I'm almost that Toni Marie is his if not wife, then life partner. I'm
not knocking her.
No, I know. I'm just saying, it's a bit
look
like
how good those
they're working
sketches
together.
Look, and look at the original character design he does in the back, the last page. Ooh.
The note about this one would be too, though, is that this isn't a complaint. Is that the other 3? How many have there been? There was
It's
Dracula.
been
There was
Dracula,
Creature from the Black Lagoon.
This is the third one.
Okay. The others were sort of modern reinventions to a certain extent. And this is like you said, this is the movie. I was like, oh, there's no modernization here. Again, that's not a complaint. It's just a difference.
Yes, you're right. I didn't even think about that. But maybe that's why this is better.
Mm.
I liked Dracula. I thought Creatures of the Black Lagoon was okay, but this is my favorite.
It started better than ended.
Yes, it did. Those are the books we're going to talk about, plus a couple extra ones. But at patreon.com/iFanboy, every patron of the show gets to vote to add a book to the rundown. It's called the Patron Pick. And this week, the overwhelming favorite was Aliens vs. Avengers #1 by Jonathan Hickman, Isadora Ribic, Eve Sorsina, Corey Pettit, and Clayton. That's not right. Which was the right? Corey Pettit.
Yeah.
Too many letters. Too many letters.
I don't know why I did. I know exactly why that happened. But go ahead.
We already talked about it, but now we can use this segment to rate the book ratings out of 5 stars. I'm going to give it 4 1/4.
4.4.
Ooh,
4.4. I feel good about that. That's what I'm going with. It was a good time, and
you're sticking with it.
Yes, obviously.
I am too. Yes. All right, so that's the Patron Pick. Patreon.com/iFanboy. Every patron can vote to add a book to the rundown. But if you give it the $5 or higher level, you get a superpower live on the show. It's bestowed upon you. It may be cool. It may be lame. It may be used for good. It may be used for evil. You have no control over it. Neither do we. It's the superpower God speaking through us. And this week we bestow that power on Daniel Sullivan.
Do you know how Batman has like all of the different vehicles? He's got a Batmobile, a Batcopter, a Batjet, a Bat Space Shuttle, or whatever. Daniel has that too, but they're all like super old timey vehicles.
Ooh.
Like the same, like the first version. So like not even the Model T, but before that, or like the Wright brothers plane, or like if you ever seen like the early versions of helicopters, he has a whole fleet of those, and they're souped up. They can do many of the things that they couldn't originally, but they are a little cantankerous. But he uses them. Yeah, but you know he's a master mechanic. Like keeps them going, and he just refuses to use anything new. So he has this arsenal of old timey vehicles, which presumably he uses to fight. Like so if it's like the first car, like you're thinking of like the beginning.
They're all first gen.
Thereabouts.
So does he have a Wright brothers plane?
Yeah.
And he's got a Model T.
Yeah. Earlier than the Model T, but yeah.
And he's got a first gen iPad that he has to hand crank, and then
he does. All of his technology is the early adopter. He's like, oh, that's a superhero name, early adopter.
So the early adopter, but his superpower is that he could keep it all running.
He keeps it all running.
He's like the Forge, but of first gen tech.
They perform extraordinarily.
Right.
However, they are quirky. There's going to be some issues.
Sure.
His catchphrase is that when something doesn't work, he goes, "Consarn it." I don't know. Just
were you reading The Rocketeer this week?
I did read The Rocketeer this week.
Okay.
Did he say consarn it in that?
No, but it just makes me think of him. PV.
Yeah. No, I think he should probably have a PV type character, but I guess he's also
he's PV.
That. Yeah.
He's both.
But he's
both.
also Cliff.
He's Cliff and PV.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thanks, Daniel, for being a patron. Patreon.com/iFanboy. Every patron, the $5 or higher level gets superpower live on the show. Now, the email from R3V, longtime listener, longtime patron, Rev. Rev says, the 2 questions, quote, ratings, and, quote, are you sticking with it, unquote, are an essential part of the Patron Pick segment. Patron Pick segment. I think it would be really interesting to add a third question, quote, would you have read this if it wasn't the Patron Pick, end quote. Sometimes this comes up organically in the conversation, but I think you should consider adding it to the script. I think it's an interesting part of the discussion. What do you think, Josh? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I think it is a good suggestion. It may be difficult for us to remember to incorporate that thing, but I'm not against trying.
It's not a bad, and it certainly has come up, but it's not relevant. It's not a bad thing to add. We will try, but as you may have as a longtime listener, you have gone along on this journey with us as our brains have degenerated. So,
but yet I've held on to some things that are completely useless.
Right. Like
where I'm Daryl Banks was the artist of that. How many things have I forgotten from this week? But that I have. Which just I'm not a huge Daryl Banks fan.
Right. He's good.
No, totally fine. But is it worth remembering above all the other things that I've forgotten? I don't know.
All right, Rev, we're gonna try it. We're gonna try to
Okay.
remember to do it.
I think, by the way, this question goes between the other two.
What does that mean?
So you get the rating.
Oh,
Then the
between,
question is,
between.
would
I
you
thought meant
have
the email.
gotten?
Yeah.
No, would you have? And then finally sticking with it.
So
That's
what's the
way
answer
it
for
has
this
to
week?
go.
Obviously, we both would have read it anyway.
Yeah, I would have read it.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to do another one? What do you want to do?
This could actually affect. I don't know why they wouldn't know, but this could affect voting because they'll have a little more information on what we would have read anyway.
Well, they won't until after the vote.
Right, but they can know. They theoretically they would find out a pattern with hard details.
Possibly. More information is better.
Yeah.
Drew H writes, I got into comics with the New 52. Oh, all right, there you go. So it worked. So while I intelligently understand that this new Absolute universe is supposed to bring in new readers, I don't care about these alternate versions of the characters. I know I can demonstrate this at DC by not buying the issues, but the FOMO will likely win out, and I will at least try the first issues and hope for the best. How are you feeling about this new initiative? Are you apathetic, looking forward to stories from these creators with different parameters, etc.? I've been thinking about this question for the past few weeks since Joshua Williamson and Scott Snyder posted their announcement video of Absolute DC Universe. Not to be confused with the Absolute Editions, which is the stupidest thing that a major company's done in a long time.
Is this related to the Absolute Power? Like this leads into that?
Yeah,
I would assume
it might.
If it is unrelated, it's ridiculous. So,
well, I was on the Discord the other day telling the patrons that we'd gotten a press release from DC about the Absolute comics, and when I saw the subject line, "New Absolute books," I thought it was an announcement about more Absolute editions, and I got really excited.
Right,
it's a horrible choice. It causes so much brand confusion. It's so ridiculous, but it is what it is. I am apathetic.
Like I was reading through the question, and it got to like, "Are you?" I was like, I don't care."
I mean, it's another attempt at DC doing an Ultimate Universe. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
Will I check out? I'll check out the first issues, but
sure.
nothing I've seen other than the creator names has excited me whatsoever. It's
like repackaging. Like these are the same ice cream flavors. You've just put them in slightly different cartons, hoping that I'll buy them. And it's like we've seen this many times, and ultimately, it always is just going to come down to how is this story? What's the execution of this thing? Because it isn't like we could say we could write the whole thing off like it's stupid. Like we both probably think it's stupid, but I'm not going to miss a good story because I don't like the umbrella which it falls under. I won't write it off for that. I mean, we do this all the time where we're like, this was great. Everything it's based on is stupid. But, that's like, okay, like remember how many of the King in Black miniseries were great?
Right.
But whatever.
So we have Scott Snyder and Nick Dragotta on Batman. We have Kelly Thompson and Hayden Sherman on Wonder Woman. We have Jason Aaron and Rafa Sandoval.
I like that lineup there.
Jason Aaron and Rafa Sandoval on Superman. And I don't know if they've announced more, but there are more coming. Look, I mean, the Ultimate books really worked. They were great. They brought a lot of people into the books. We enjoyed them when they came out at the time. We used to say on the show, because yes, we were doing the show. We were talking about books way back then. There wasn't a show in 2000, but we were talking about it in 2005. Mm-hmm. That at the time, Ultimate Spider-Man was a way better book than Amazing Spider-Man, and we really enjoyed it. But not all the Ultimate books were good. We just took them on their merit. I'm not excited, but I will look at them and I'll rate them on their own merits. Yeah, I just haven't seen anything that's been like, oh, that's a cool concept. I've just been like,
well, I mean, it's like nothing against Scott, but like Scott Snyder and Batman. Yeah, we did that. Like I've got the sense of what that's like. We read it for years,
and that's a big difference between. And look, I'm excited for Jason Aaron on Superman and Kelly Thompson on Wonder Woman, but the Ultimate books, those were new creators to them. Like Brian Bendis was new to the Marvel scene when he did Spider-Man. You had Robert Kirkman, who was new into comics doing X-Men. You had Mark Miller was relatively new. He was maybe the most veteran of all the names that were in the mix, but these weren't like industry veterans. These were brand new people injecting new energy into the thing. This is not that, and so it's hard to be excited by it.
Mm-hmm.
What is Josh Williamson doing? He must have said what book he was saying, but I didn't see. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I'm not excited about it. I just can't. I don't know why.
I mean, I think that one of the things that we've seen is that there's not reboots, but there's these alternate versions in these other worlds. So you've got Knights of Steel, and you've got DC versus Vampires, and you've got what's the Tom Taylor one that was great? The zombies Injustice. Or whatever. DC and that both, yeah, and those are like a real reimagination of things, or maybe that's not even true. Injustice was a reimaginative thing. Well, whatever. But this kind that you're talking about, which is some of the ultimate stuff, ultimately suffered from, is that it wasn't different enough. It was kind of the same thing. Like, and I think that was the failure of a lot of the ultimate books eventually, is that they just didn't need to be there.
And that's when they became less interesting, when they just started doing the stories over. Like at the beginning, Spider-Man was doing its own thing, and then it was like, well, now we're going to do the Clone Saga, and now we're going to do this story.
Exactly.
Like,
now, they got by it with Ultimate Spider-Man, especially because it was really good.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that kicked it over, but comics aren't always that good. Like the hit rate is not that high. There'll be great stories in there. There's going to be at least one of those books we're going to be like, wow, this book is fantastic. I
will say this, that there's the DC All-in-One special in October, which I guess kicks us off, that Scott and Josh Williamson are writing, and the two artists on it are Daniel Sampere and Wes Craig. Wes Craig's awesome. Mm-hmm. So now here's the log lines. Now, just because I haven't been paying attention that much, and I assume you have been paying attention less. Here's the three log lines. Ready? See if you can spot the similarities. Absolute Batman #1. In this iteration, fans will be introduced to a version of the Dark Knight that doesn't have the money, mansion, or butler of his core line counterpart.
That's what Batman has been for quite some time.
Absolute Wonder Woman. For Diana, there is no island paradise, no sisterhood to shape her, nor mission of peace. So what is the purpose of an Amazonian warrior in this new universe? Superman.
Have we done that?
Writer Jason Aaron, artist Rafa Sandoval to join forces to present a new Man of Steel with the launch episode #1. This Superman has no family, no fortress of solitude, no home. Will he stand for truth or justice, or a better tomorrow in this new universe? So it's basically
they've all taken the support systems and background away from everybody.
Yes.
All right.
It's just it's not exciting.
But like,
and Wonder Woman has tribal tattoos, in case that makes it more
and like you. One of those things. I mean, the thing that makes the characters good, and this is you're talking to people who've been reading forever, is that the thing that makes these characters human and makes them relatable and makes me love them has more to do with the people around them and their situations. Yeah. You take those away, like you're going to give them a new sidekick. I mean, just putting either you're going to have versions of those other people coming in, or you're going to keep them alone, which doesn't work.
I'm trying to be not prejudgy, but it doesn't sound good.
It doesn't sound good,
but we'll see. Maybe it will be.
Well, I mean, you're going to give it a shot. We're going to read it without prejudice. But
look,
it's not exciting.
I would tell Drew that, look, if you don't care, then screw FOMO. Don't read it.
Just keep listening, and we'll tell you what's worth reading.
And if they are good, you can always go back and get them. You can get a collection, or you can get whatever. But don't feel like you have to keep up with the conversation just because. Mm-hmm. I mean, the comics are expensive, and there's a lot of them.
You know what, though? If you care, if you like the writer, give it a chance, but don't feel like you need to read it forever.
True.
Yeah,
True.
I mean...
Just like John Constantine, he eventually stopped reading.
Listen...
I just called you John. What happened
I didn't even catch that. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. You're just having a little space
out there. It's a red flag in my brain going, wrong name.
I listen, whatever. If there's another arc... I'll try that, but I'm done with this one.
Oh, yeah. No, it's real bad. Anyway, thank you, Drew, and thank you, Rev, for writing in. Contact@ifanboy.com is where you can write in. And also for our Media Explode, put Media Explode in the subject line if you have non-comics media questions. We want to hear from you. It's always fun. We like doing these emails. It's we haven't talked about these absolute books, but here we go. Because of an email we talked about.
I want to do this other email. We don't have to do it, but we should save it.
Okay.
But not today.
Good note for next time. Quick plugs. This past
like
month,
Jimon Hansu said in Gladiator. Not today. That was that, right?
I'm excited for the sequel for that.
I saw the trailer. I enjoyed that.
I don't know. I was like, oh, that looks fun.
Yeah.
So I think I told you on one of the shows I said this, but the woman behind me had a full body reaction when Pedro Pascal showed up. Like she had a moment.
Did she make a noise like Lando getting grabbed by the Sarlacc tentacle?
There was a noise. There was movement in the chair. Like it was a whole situation. So this past month we had a Deadpool and Wolverine review. We had a Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 3, possibly the last DC animated original superhero film review. We had a Media Explode where we talked about The Bear and we talked about House of the Dragon and we talked about Twisters. And then this past week, right behind the show in the feed, we had our Book Explode review of Lone Wolf and Cub, Omnibus Volume 1. And also, more than you might expect, on Josh's old roommate. And then a discussion about the next book, which is going to be Batman: The Dark Knight Strikes Again. Just in time for my birthday.
Gomenasai, Kana-san.
And so, coming up in September, we'll have 3 shows back-to-back starting midway through the month. On the 12th, we're going to have our review of Watchmen Chapter 1, the animated film, the animated version of Watchmen, is Chapter 1. The week after that will be our Media Explode. Don't know what that's going to be yet. And then the week after that will be our Talk Explode. Josh is in negotiations. Right?
We're in talks.
You're in talks.
Yeah.
You're talking to his people.
Yeah.
You're coming to terms with on the format, the questions you're allowed to ask.
Mm-hmm.
What's off limits?
It's really that we get stuck on the what's off limits a lot because I have what we used to call journalistic integrity before all of this clickbait bullshit.
Well, Josh always likes to delve deeply into sexual history, but it's always off limits for some reason.
That's why it never comes up in the show.
Right.
It has nothing to do with
off limits, Josh.
It has nothing to do with my patrician New England views.
No, he's supposed to wag his finger.
Wouldn't you say it's unnatural though? That's mostly how it starts.
We don't like to sell liquor on Sundays, and we don't like to have interesting sex.
How do you feel about asexual reproduction in fauna of given and microfauna?
We got to get into this. We got to stop it. It's not good.
You're treating it exactly the same way that you used to talk about when villains had no pupils.
All right, you're up next.
You can find our library of 1,399 shows.
That's right, baby.
You're doing the math there. It's no special edition this week, so you know what next week's going to be.
1,400 shows.
Don't give it away.
Sorry.
It's at iFanboy.com. It is a big old feed in all of the podcast aggregators out there. If you want to go and listen to them all, you want to talk about character development, follow us at iFanboy. Character development, while complex and rich, isn't necessarily good.
Devolution.
Like in fiction, we always think of character development as a good thing, but in real life, it can go either way. I had iFanboy Comics on Instagram. Pick of the Week will be there before the show comes out. Sometimes there is the Best of the Week in panels where possible by Connor. You can follow us individually. I just send panels to Connor every once in a while, so that's just for him.
I used one last time.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I don't always see them for whatever reason.
You gotta subscribe to iFanboy.
I do.
I don't know if that's how that works. I don't know.
I don't ever see anybody's posts anymore. Connor and I are CS Kilpatrick and J.A. Flanagan on Instagram.
Subscribe to youtube.com/iFanboy. That's where you'll find all of our old video shows. And this show we post every week. So subscribe there. If you can check it out, you can see us in our glory, which was in our 20s, which is where you can see us. Please consider writing us a review or leave a star rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. We do appreciate that. It helps the algorithm. It helps people find the show. Thank you for listening. Thank you for doing so. I'm Connor.
I mean, we are so much better at doing this now than then. It's embarrassing.
Yeah, but nothing hurt back then.
I mean, I was pretty depressed.
Okay. Nothing physically hurt.
Not because of this.